Hello and welcome to another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show, where this week we're super excited to have the head football coach at Sierra Lutheran High School, Mr. Justin Barlow, on the show. Coach, I thought this would be a really interesting episode because Coach is also a head wrestling coach, which I have done in the past as well, and those guys are always, in my experience, very technique-driven. There's a lot of technique in wrestling, definitely. So I was excited to have him on the show and talk some ball with him. But before we get into that, just want to take a moment to remind everybody the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show is brought to you by School Funder. School Funder, the only online fundraising company in America that lets you keep all of the money your team raises. You would never give away 20% of the wins your team earns. So why do coaches all across the country give away 20% of their proceeds in fundraising when you don't have to? Call the good people at School Funder at schoolfundr.org and let them know the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show sent you, as it'll help the show. While you're helping the show right now, please hit subscribe. Viewership's been doing very well, very pleased with that. Definitely want to try to drive that subscription number up. And again, you will get, it doesn't cost you a penny. You will get no spam from me, no anything. All it does is give you an update when we have a new episode. So please hit that, and we would appreciate it. Coach, I really appreciate you. We have had some technical difficulties at this point, but we're going to hop right into it. But before we get into it, if you want to take me just a little bit, one of my favorite parts of the show is hearing about everybody's football story. So if you want to take a few moments and tell us your football story.
Yeah, no, definitely. Where to start? I mean, ultimately, I had a really impactful high school program. Our team was basically like the worst team in the league, 2-8 team. Eventually, we ended up being league champs my senior year. Really impactful. I think it meant a lot to everyone on that team. Ultimately, went out and played some football. Went to UNR right off the bat. Eventually, went to College of San Mateo, which is in California. It's a junior college, and then eventually signed a full ride to Fayetteville State, which is a HBCU out of North Carolina. So then to be able to come back home, like after I graduated, I wanted to be a PE teacher, eventually became a school counselor, as I felt like that was more like up my alley, and I felt like I kind of needed a little bit of reprieve from constant PE and then coaching and all that. It just provides a different challenge. But I coached at my alma mater with my head coach for 9 years. No, actually probably about 7 years. Eventually worked my way all the way up to the defensive coordinator and the special teams coordinator there. After that, I from that point, after a change up of the last head coach I had there, felt like it was a time for a move for me. So I took a chance and did something that a lot of people were like not really giving me favorable reviews about. Is I went to the school across town that was 165 kids, and they didn't have a football team at the time. They had already disbanded the program for a season, and me and another coach went over there and we decided to build something from nothing, from the ground up. Thought it was a really good opportunity for me to like kind of just test myself, and like, you know, being in the same program for a long time, you know, it kind of puts you kind of do everything for a reason that you weren't there for. It's like we do it because that's the Carson way, right? And then when you go to a place that has less tradition, that has like an open ceiling, you kind of get to set the precedent of like whatever is done. So I went there with one of the coaches that had coached me in my high school year. He was the athletic director there, and then I went with one of the players I had from high school. He came on and was my offensive coordinator. So we just started from the ground up. I mean, we literally had to recruit kids out of the hallway. I mean, we were getting kids that had never played football before. Majority of the kids had never played football, a single play. A lot of kids hadn't played football for over a year, maybe 2-3 years. So they hadn't won very many games. I think like the all-time coaching record was like 5 total wins in 3 seasons, or maybe in 2 seasons. But ultimately we went in there and we like had to we made the program up by ourselves. We made the playbook up by ourselves, and we had to do it in like a framework that was like entirely different than other schools. Whereas like you have to factor in during play design, we're factoring in like buy-in. We're factoring in like a plug and play approach, because we know like a couple things for sure. Like, we don't have kids for that long, because we're starting the season and we just have to play right now. If we make things too hard or too complicated, kids will just leave because they don't understand what to do or they feel discouraged. And we have to engage like the kids on a whole different level than I feel like we did before, because at every place I'd coached before, every season you had to worry about how good your team was. You didn't have to worry if there was going to be enough guys to practice. And I think it totally changes the way that you design everything. And I think that is a luxury that at a big school like Carson, which has over 2,000 kids at it, was something that I even kind of took for granted, because it was like, all right, we're going to have practice, and kids just showed up, and whether they were like going to give you some attitude or they were going to be the best kids in the world, you were going to have 30 or 40 kids. So to come into a situation where we had to tell the kids right off the bat, hey, if 11 kids don't show up today, we're canceling practice. Like, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it with 6 kids and try and make it work, because that's kind of was the history of it, was that these coaches came in and they would struggle, and then the kids would not want to go to practice, so they would let them only go a certain amount of days a week, and then it got to a point where they couldn't even get enough kids to play in an 8-man game. So we did that. Lastly, like going into that, and I'll kind of show you, it kind of reflects on what I'm going to talk about a little bit with this, is that we did something like, we went from 8-man. During the season, we played 5 8-man games, and then we went to 11-man, and we played 4 11-man games. So, like, not a lot of coaches have had, like, that experience. I never had that experience. I'd never even watched an 8-man game before, let alone that. So, even with that, like, when we built this offense, we had to make sure that we were building things that would, like, be applicable when we went to 11-man. We didn't want to flip the script and do a whole new offense when we got there. So, like, trying to find those ways that may, simplify it, but still do different things out of it. Things that we like decided like didn't cost a whole lot, which is the whole philosophy behind our Falcon, like our jet sweep. Is like, we're trying to do things that make it different and give different looks without changing up the entire offense and losing that continuity that we've built up.
Coach, I've talked to plenty of 8-man guys, 11. I've never talked to anybody that I've heard of guys having an 11-man team and it dropping down to 8-man, but I haven't heard a whole lot of guys playing some 11-man games and some 8-man games in the same schedule. So I would say that's a pretty unique experience, and what you're saying there too. I've been at 6A schools and now at a 4A school. Really got to change the way you approached it. I love the way you talked about that, because there's different ways to go into a program. When you go into a program where you're just struggling to have enough guys to have practice, you can't go in and rule with an iron fist.
Yep.
To some degree. You have to, and in some ways I think that's not bad for football coaches, because in a lot of ways we've always had that where enough guys were going to show up, and now kids have a lot of options. So I think that experience will definitely serve you well. So I'm excited to get into it. I love me some jet sweeps, so I'm going to let you take over, and I will ask questions as I go, but I'm mostly going to be quiet and listen to you coach us up.
Perfect. Awesome. So going right into it, going to share this screen right now really quick.
Love it.
You can see that right here. Like, so when we get into that look, this is basically our Falcon left and our Falcon right call. And this all plays into it. We were going to simplify it. So we had our F, which is going to be our most dynamic person. That's usually one of our best athletes, is going to always be on that Falcon side with our tight end. And we're always going to have our A backside to that with the receiver. So as we go there, then as we start to transition to 11-man, we pop right back down, and we keep those same rules in. So our F and our Y are still going to be that direction side. Our A and our X wide receiver are still going to be on that side. We just add 2 tackles, and then we put a Z receiver, so it actually becomes like a tight trips look out of it, with that jet sweep coming on the weak side. So what we were able to do with that, which just like in our mindset, was that we really have to force them, because we had a really good running back, 21 touchdown running back, who had not played football since he was a freshman at another school. We were really lucky to have him, but we made a really hard decision for this defense, because we would pound the rock really hard to that Falcon side with the Y, the F, and the Z, and we'd start to work like some pin and pull, like, so we'd pull both our guards and we run stuff like that. But then if they were going to do that, and they were going to start to bring their safety over, and they were going to send people to that strong side, we could jet sweep back the other way, and we'd penalize them with that. So, I mean, everything that we try and do, going back to being simple, is that we're going to give you two options, and if you take one, we're going to go the other one. But
I'm already fascinated by this. Just the way you had to design it to fit 8-man and 11-man is really cool, Coach.
Thanks. Yeah, no, and it was like very intentional. We looked at it. We said we designed the offense where we wanted everyone to have one big play, like a play that they could own, where they knew they would be like getting the ball, or they were gonna, like, if we're gonna call this play, we're only gonna run it to the X. If we're gonna call this play, we're only running it to Z. Whereas like our F and our A could be more interchangeable, but everyone else didn't need to know exactly what was going on. And I'll kind of show you what I mean by that now, going into that. I have the cut-ups for this. So when we look at this is real dark. Oh, this one's bad. I don't know what they messed up. So, and these are going to go back and forth from our... Wait, let's see. Yeah, these are going to go back and forth from 11-man and 8-man. But we have right here is going to be an 11-man. We're going to run that. We have that Falcon right. We're going right here. I think we just give him a good regular, right? So our A slices and takes first threat here. This A-back comes down. He was a bruiser guy for us. He could just smoke somebody. We would try and work this guy and try and push him to the edge. Good athlete. That play as a regular play is going to give us about 8 or 10 yards. Sometimes it would break for a touchdown. That first one that I cut out because it was dark broke for a touchdown. But ultimately, if you see with these offensive linemen, all we're trying to do right there is we're just trying to open up. Our guy does a kick step for some reason, but most of the time we're just doing a reach step hard to that side. And if we're doing any of the stuff that we run out of our jet sweep, we're going to keep that same thing where we don't have to tell the O-line that we're going to do something different. They know what it is. So then we get there and we're just going to go back into another one. So now they're going to start to take that away. So this is one that we're going to run a jet pop pass. So we're going to motion that over. We're going to let him go by. We're going to fake the run. We're just going to throw that out there, because that's what they were doing, is they'd bring pressure to that left side. They'd overload it. And then once they saw him run by, they would think that it was a different play. We would just pop it out right there for that guy. Like I said, he was a good little athlete, so he could catch and throw. And ultimately, all our guys are reaching anyway, so it's not changing them what they're going to do up front.
What are they blocking up front, Coach? Like that, a little trap, or what do they got going?
Oh, so this one though, this is a little bit different. When I look at this was going to be power, and I'm going to show you the next play. So out of another option of this, we have that jet sweep that's going to come around, and let's see. I don't know if you've been playing with the new huddle features at all, but they got this
I'm
laser.
Huddle classic guy.
I know, and I was too, but this laser pointer thing is cool.
All right.
This thing right here, like, and then you can set it up where it fades. It's very... So yeah, like, I'll draw this thing up and it'll just like fade for it. So like while you're talking, you don't have to like go back and delete every single drawing you do. So what we'll do is eventually as that guy goes and they overload that side, we start to send them, but then we don't give them the ball. But then we'll work our running back to a power the opposite way. So it goes one or the other. We're either going to give this ball to our jet, or we're going to run that power look. Right here, we're going to pull the backside guard. Right here, he's going to look up the middle. It's going to hit pretty tight, pending. I mean, he was pretty good at sometimes, because a lot of our guys weren't exactly sure who to block. it ended up looking a lot like a zone look at times. But we'll send that jet sweep across, and we'll go back the other way with them just like that.
So let me ask you, Coach, you guys were blocking power even when you gave the jet and then the tackles hook in there?
Not all the time. There was certain, like, specifically, like when we drew things up specific, we would call it different ways. But if we wanted them to go the opposite way with like that pop pass, we would call the power look.
Okay, gotcha.
So it doesn't. So we don't have to like, because we could come up with a whole play and we could call it pop, but then the offensive line would be like, "What do I do on pop?" No, you're running power. We're gonna jet them by. We're gonna run power, but we're gonna pop it out to the. So the only person that really needs to know is the quarterback and the F.
I love it.
And then because that just went down to is like, how much time do we got? How much focus are we gonna have with these kids versus like we want them playing fast. They only got to know 5 or 6 plays truly. Moving to the next one right here, just going back to that original power look. And if you see, I think this is the one. This is pretty common. What we would get is as we start to get that motion with our jet back, you're going to see backside safeties crash. You'll see people starting to scoot, people starting to move back, and we can just go right back to that power look.
That's some good high quality football right there.
So, and I mean, and that's just something that you can adjust on the fly. All we have to do is see what they're going to play on. How are they going to play on the backside? Are they going to chase someone to that guy? Are they going to bump to the Falcon backs jet sweep? And that's kind of like the tell for all of our stuff. Going right here, just back to another jet power look. And we had, I mean, this team, really good team out of Battle Mountain, but they would cheat this guy so much, and they were calling it every single time, that every time they would do that, we could just go right back to the power and run right at that safety. Like I said, and then now going into other ones. So what was cool is how dynamic it was without, like I said, it doesn't cost a whole lot. As we start to get the jet sweep going, now no one really cares about this guy over here, this backside receiver, and now we're going to start to work him back into our reverse series on that. So we're still just getting a reach look for our guys, like it's just going to be regular. We're going to influence to the jet sweep. Our guy's going to put his foot in the ground, come around, just get a nice little reverse. Because everybody thinks they got it figured out when they see that jet sweep and he gets it in his hands. Eventually he comes back around. Quarterback leads up the way. And that was just another thing we could do off of that only cost us 5 or 10 minutes of practice with these 2 or 3 kids. Versus like
what
having...
I love about it, Coach, is it's series-based football right here to its finest. Series-based. All look similar, and you're right. That little fade thing there with the drawing in there is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that thing is cool. I mean, I've always been a Huddle Classic person, and then I started looking at building up these cut-ups, and I was like really impressed with some of these little features. So now we're here. This is a simple one. Now, like what we've been able to do with our quarterback, though, especially when we had a running quarterback this year, really fast guy, we were able to just end up optioning that outside guy right here at times, and we would just do a QB pull if they were going to fly out. If we felt that they were going out, he would just pull it. He could get the quick yards. So now we've got that jet sweep QB read, still running the same formation, still giving the same look to everybody. We're all just running those reach steps, and some of these, you'll see some of these blocks are a little crazy, but I mean, you got to think this is a team that, you know, some of these guys have never even played some football, you know, and they did a really good job for us up front.
Absolutely.
I think finding an offensive lineman that could just jump in and play right off the bat is probably the most challenging. You know, you can find.
Like you said, Coach, you were just trying to field a team at this point, and then fielding the team and throwing in the guys that are going to be the glue, the lineman guys. I mean, impressive stuff, really.
Yep, and so we're going back to this same thing right here. And ultimately, like, the second they don't want to respect the regular fly, it's just going to be open. And like I said, most teams eventually did a good job taking away that play, but they would take it away at a gain for us. You know, I mean, like, if you're getting 8 yards, I mean, you're setting up your power run game pretty good for that. Looking at the next thing, now the next step we can do into that is our jet pass. And this is a new part of it where, let's see, is this the throw? So going back to that same thing, now we've just got a double pass going with that jet sweep. So eventually this guy thinks he's doing his job by flying downhill, taking that away, because this guy the receiver on the outside hasn't gotten the ball a whole lot in this formation. He starts to see, comes downhill, he runs right past his guy, sets up a really good long shot ball for us. And we were able to do that play a couple different times. So we've got the reverse out of that. Now we have the double pass out of that. We have our regular jet sweep. We have our QB read. We have our power. I mean, a lot of things that didn't take like a whole lot of practice. And I think like at a small school, and another thing at a small school, when everybody plays both ways or everybody's factoring in on both ways, you just have that much less of time with them because you got to run through all defense and all offense with the same guys. Coming back to that same thing right here, just another reverse play. Bringing that guy across, he gets the ball, passes up because everyone was flying to the ball, trying to chase. Puts us in a position where we can get a long gain. I think this ends up being a touchdown.
And Coach, is this the first clip we morphed into 8-man?
This is no. There's one other. The reason why you can tell is we had when you do 8-man on a regular field, you have to bring these lines.
Yeah, I missed that on the other one. I see it on this one very clearly.
Well, some of them we are on. They're just a smaller field in general.
Okay.
So this field is this is the first one where we're playing 8-man, but we're also on in a 53 yard wide field. So yeah, we'd have to set that up every game. You know, that was a new experience for us, but like what it came down to is that this is actually Carson's field. Is that I wanted these kids to play in a real stadium instead of like a little grass field where there were stands and, you know, snack bar and all the stuff to give them that high school experience. And, you know, they were super stoked. I mean, talk about kids that were grateful. I mean, at a big school, we take for granted all the good stuff we have, you know, and then those kids are playing. It's like playing in Raider Stadium, and they're playing in, you know, Carson High Stadium.
Coach, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you're the head wrestling coach at Carson and
Yeah.
the head football coach at Sierra Lutheran. That in itself is a really cool dynamic too.
Yeah, you know, I think it lends itself to the community. You know, I mean, like all of our Sierra Lutheran people are good with our high school people. My offensive line coach is the throwing coach for Sierra Lutheran and for Carson High School as well. So there's multiple people on the staff that have dual roles. And since I work at Carson High and I've been there for so long, it just was a really smooth transition. So getting into the next part right here, just more things that we could do out of that is eventually as we get the run going, we want to start getting the pass, we would just have that person look like they weren't getting the ball, and then they would wheel it up, and then we could just give them a chance for like a 50-50 ball on that wheel. It's right here. Eventually they would start to not care about the F because he wasn't getting the ball, and we were motioning him so many times and it was going back to power. You could kind of set him up where we do 2 or 3 plays where he motions, he doesn't get the ball and it's power, and then eventually we just motion him and wheel him, and then he's getting the ball now. He's back to getting the ball. So coming up with different ways to make that same formation, that basically that same like set of 3 plays look a little different for us. Here's another one right here. This is an 8-man look at it. Same thing, motion that guy across, run them through. And this was actually even better in 8-man, because in 8-man, traditionally, outside of what we do on our defense, everybody runs man all the time. So, like, if you can just get one person to just kind of like, so if we can get this safety guy to bite on the inside receiver right here, which this guy would get a lot of passes to, it was always a good open shot for us there. And in 8-man, we went 5-0 in 8-man, and we ended up outscoring our opponents like 280 to like 45. And that, mind you, that was the season. 5 wins in 8-man is the season high season. That would have been the most. And then we were able to go out and we ended up winning another 3 games in 11-man. So now we're gonna kind of go into like the okays, the goods, the bads, things that, like, as far as like coaching up can do, especially in the beginning of these plays right here, just having our person cut in and not get that read from our A-back. We tell them they always should be breaking outside, but really it's kind of a read. I think everything in football is kind of a read, and being that athlete. If this number 10 floods out so far, an athlete, our A-back should kick that person out, and he should just cut up, right? It kind of turns into a zone, even though we want him to hit all the way on the outside. But if we can hook this guy, or we can get on the top of him, the idea is to push this thing all the way out. So there, we kind of get a mixed look. He gets a little hesitant. I think he probably could have got outside, but he cuts back in. Still ends up getting some yardage, but ultimately, like, not the place we really want to be at. I mean, this is just a blunder play. We got really this was a great play for our power. But we would put a power read into that. Our guy should have given that ball based off of the read. I mean, he ends up going and housing this because he was a stud. Another guy
That's a heck of a play.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great play. I mean, we were yelling, slide, just go down, because he had fumbled the drive before. We were like, just go down. And I mean, at this point, it was 7-6. They scored a touchdown on his fumble for a touchdown. And this was a good team. So he went in there, and we were like, slide, slide, slide. He eventually cuts back. We're screaming and yelling. We eventually start to chase and get all excited. But, I mean, you can't really expect that play to go down. Now we're going to start to get the ugly, and I think this is more, when I looked at it, it wasn't as much as play design, but like, this is just new team, new chemistry stuff, where it's like, snaps and the rhythm of a jet sweep is so particular, and it can literally make the drive or ruin the drive based on how well the center snaps, how well the handoff goes, at what speed the jet sweep is hitting, because in my mind, like, you should be getting to about like 85% on when you're catching that ball, or when you're getting it from the quarterback, accelerating through. If you have to stop and slow down for the QB, like, that play always ends up looking bad. So here, I mean, we motion, it looks like the good timing goes over the head right there. Now that's all messed up. I mean, he ends up making a couple yards out of that, but like, that's not how we want it to look. Getting in the next thing, how critical that snap is. The snap's low here, messes it up. He has to pull it. Eventually it was a penalty, but that was going to be a loss of yards anyways. We look here, another low snap. I mean, our running back literally picks it up and tries to run it out, but by that time, I mean, just a second or two, I mean, it changes the whole progression. It changes all the linebackers flying over. So, I mean, I think, like, when you're running the jet sweep at all, I think the biggest thing is just getting that mesh together, getting that center dialed in. Yep, another bad snap, just changes the whole play, puts us in a lot of different situations. And if you look at this little scoreboard we have in the bottom, I mean, a lot of these plays are like 7-6, 13-6, 21-14. I mean, this is the whole game. So, like, we could have a big explosive play. We had a touchdown on the very first play, and then we fumble it for that yards. I mean, so trying to build that continuity. This one, I'm just saying, ugly timing. Ultimately comes down to a bad snap. But yeah, that's kind of it. And I mean, ultimately, like what's cool about that, I really take a lot of pride in is that all the kids knew where to line up. All the kids knew their role and what they had to do. And if you look at the how many different types of blocks they had to do, I mean, really, they had to do downs, they had to do down blocks, they had to do reach, and they had to do pulls. And through that, and just being able to teach those 3 blocks and be able to like really get those blocks better and better helped us even more. And I think that you see a lot of people make that mistake where they want to do too many things. And I know that I've definitely been on staffs where we're trying to teach them some zone blocks and some gap scheme blocks, and they do this on this play, but when they call it with this, it's a different thing. And I think that was something we knew we couldn't afford with this.
You know, Coach, I do a lot of these, and I got to tell you, the fact that you guys, 2 of the things that have struck me about this one that I really appreciate your time. One, building a program back up from scratch, and you talking honestly about things you had to do where you were worried about having enough kids to practice football. And 2, the way you guys designed it where you had 8-man and 11-man is something that I've never had, I've never seen. So I really appreciate that. One of the reasons I like this show is because our number 1 goal is to try to get as much knowledge to coaches out there as possible. And number 2, I like learning stuff too. So I learned a ton with that. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask you one last quick question. As we talked about, you're a head wrestling coach too. I think if you were kind of building, in my view, if you're building like the perfect scenario as a football coach, you would have a football player that maybe your skill kids are really good to go to basketball, a lot of your linemen, then a few of your tight ends go to wrestling, and then they all go to track after, if you were kind of building it out how you'd like it the whole year. But how has being a head wrestling coach helped you be a football coach?
I think a lot of ways, especially knowing, like, for me, it's like I wrestled in high school, but I was much better football player. I wrestled to be better at that. But I think, like, as a head wrestling coach, I think there's a lot of things that lend itself to building a program. I think for starters is like engagement. And I think that can be something applied to everybody, right? It's like wrestling is a very hard sport to get people to come out to. It's not like a sexy sport like basketball or football is, where it's on TV and they see it all the time. They know these people, whereas like wrestling's really hard, and when you're not good, you kind of get beat up a little bit, and it's very physical and people aren't used to that. So I think being a head wrestling coach and knowing like how to like keep it engaging even at like the lowest level, I think was something that paid off for me, like coaching football, like, and just knowing like, okay, these kids may not be used to the physical nature of this game, so like this team isn't the team that you should do Oklahoma with right off the bat. You know, like some teams I would have that were like inherently just in crazy killer teams, they would want to do tackling right off the bat, right? And these kids were super excited to that, but I also knew like there was a certain physical element that was going to be different, so we had to build up. So like we spent more time in progressions, and we played more like chase and tag games, like for our defensive tackling circuits, that kind of put them in better positions and put their leverage, like, so they could understand leverage more than the physical nature. Because even at the end of the day, like, we weren't the best tackling team, but what made us good was that we understood leverage really well. We understood the inside and the outside guy, and we would like run to the ball. So I think that was like a big thing. I think that like in general, like positioning and leverage, I think is just a critical factor that comes into play when you're doing anything in football. I mean, whether we were talking about that jet sweep, like understanding like if a person has outside leverage on someone and you have to go inside is huge, right? I think as an offensive lineman, when you feel, eventually when you lose on a block, you have to flip your hips and just run them out the club. Like, you know, it's like, so like understanding like how to capture people and what that body position feels like when you're capturing on a reach block versus just keeping them engaged is like a huge factor. And I think one that was really surprising for me, even to see with wrestling and that, was how open field blocking was so much like wrestling. So when our receivers would stock block, being able to position yourself, take on someone and then feel where they were trying to go, because you don't know where the running back is behind you. So if that linebacker tries to shed inside, you have to take him inside, and you have to log him inside. And like feeling that is such a huge factor, I think, that like is underappreciated. So I mean, I think like having that background in wrestling is good. And I guess the last one is, and we don't do enough of this in football, I really believe this, is teaching and progression. Like teach it, like in wrestling as a when you teach beginning middle school wrestling, when no one knows what's going on, like I teach everything by numbers. I teach like 1 is this, 2 you get to the outside, 3 you drop to the leg, 4 you drive, right? And I think like teaching and progression, like when I was doing it with football, was so impactful for these kids, because they were like, okay, like I go hands to the jersey, 1, 2 your lockout, 3 your shed to the inside, or whatever your leverage point was, right? And it's like, instead of just telling them and just being like, run the drill and just figure it out, versus like even your best kids can be more intentional about their hand placement and about their true full extension. Because a lot of our kids, they want to skip to the part where they're getting the touchdowns or they're making the sacks. But like ultimately, if you're not going through your progressions every single time, and if we're not coaching those progressions, then we're not giving them the ability to be that well-rounded athlete.
Coach, I absolutely love it. I can't thank you enough for your time, and we will see everybody next time for another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show.
Thanks for having me, man.